Morning, everyone. So before we get started today, I actually have a little documentary I want to share with you. Last week, I released my first book called Can I Get a Witness? How to Understand and Set Free Jehovah's Witnesses. And the documentary is kind of supplementing the book, and it's called Can I Get a Witness? And it shows basically the need that's out there for people to understand and know who Jehovah's Witnesses are. It's a short documentary film. This is actually the very short version of it. We have a longer version we're still working on. But we wanted to make sure we had this for this event. You're going to see some familiar faces, and you're going to see a lot of interesting interviews, a lot of interesting perspectives from people who are Christians, people who aren't Christians, and people who were Jehovah's Witnesses, and people who just have no idea who they are. And you'll see some familiar faces, like I said. I hope you enjoy it, and then as soon as it's done, I'll come back here and we'll talk a little bit more.
Who are Jehovah's Witnesses? Jehovah's Witnesses are a very misunderstood and peculiar group of people. I was born and raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I knocked on thousands of doors as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Through all my years of knocking, I always asked myself, where are all the Christians? Where are all the people who supposedly believe in Jesus, and why aren't they talking to me just as I am talking to them about Jehovah and the good news of the kingdom? My question then and now is, can I get a witness? Today there are over 7 million Jehovah's Witnesses actively preaching door-to-door, 1.4 billion hours just in 1 year alone. Jehovah's Witnesses are known worldwide for their Awake and Watchtower magazines, which they distribute door-to-door. But who exactly are Jehovah's Witnesses? What do Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe? Many people do not understand Jehovah's Witnesses or know even the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. We ask Christians and non-Christians what they know about Jehovah's Witnesses, and these are their reactions.
So what is your name?
Will Leshy.
Andrew.
Evan.
Joe Schuberth.
Corinne.
Steve Durgan.
Hey, my name is Alex.
I want to know one thing. What do you know about Jehovah's Witnesses?
That they're a real pain in the ass when they come knocking at your door, man. Trust me. But I don't know much about their religion. I just saw them like pain in the ass people, like not to let them in because like you got to stick to what you believe and not go look for something else.
Not much, honestly. I do know that while they believe that Christ is God, they kind of believe that he isn't the same as the high God, if that even makes sense. Don't really know much.
I know that they come door to door. We have a Jehovah's Witness place, I'm not sure what they call where they worship in Wethersfield, but I know that only a certain number of them get to heaven, I've heard. So I think that's part of the reason they're compelled to go door to door, because they want to be like as successful of a Jehovah's Witness as possible to make it to their heaven.
I know a few things. I know that they take a lot of biblical verses and they kind of Bible hop. They kind of go from verse to verse. I know they knock on your doors. I know they're normally pretty friendly people, but they don't let you talk because they're kind of talking 100 miles an hour. So I don't know a lot about their doctrine. I know they believe that Jesus is Michael the Archangel. I know that they believe that the soul is not eternal, so it either when it goes to hell, so it will just perish. And
not much. All I really knew is that they knock on doors and they try to share the Bible with you, and I didn't really know that there was much of a difference between a Jehovah's Witness and a Christian or a Catholic, or what the difference was. I didn't really know much. One of my friends in high school, her parents were Jehovah's Witness, and I just knew that she didn't celebrate holidays.
Well, I know that they dress up. They often move in twos. They go door to door. They try to witness to people, telling them about Jehovah. I guess they're considered proselytists. I think that's the word. I know that they believe that the 144,000 mentioned in the book of Revelation, those who are sealed, that they believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses are included in that as the true believers of the true God, that others who would consider themselves Christians or Protestants today are not included in that. I know that they believe that Jesus is not God, but Michael the Archangel.
Well, what I've heard is that they're kind of a cult.
I believe that the problem in American Christianity today is that we do not have enough witnesses. Jesus said in Acts 1:8 that we will be his witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses, just like any other person on the street, are in desperate need of a witness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. The only question that remains is, will you be faithful to the call, and will you be a witness of Jesus? We traveled up to Tewksbury, Massachusetts to the Upper Rooms Ministries, where we interviewed Rick Farron and Dick Borghi. Rick Farron and Dick were Jehovah's Witnesses for many years. Rick Farron was a Jehovah's Witness for nearly 50 years of his life. Rick Farron also had the conviction that he was one of the anointed, one of the 144,000 Jehovah's Witnesses. This is their testimony.
Well, Brian, you got to go way back to the 1950s. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness, and my father wasn't. But my mother actually brought us to the Kingdom Hall as a young man. I had 3 sisters. She brought them too, and we all became Jehovah's Witnesses. My 3 sisters, even till this day, are. But the funny thing about it is I'm actually a 3rd generation Jehovah's Witness, so they've been in the family for quite a while.
I was in the Marine Corps, and I served in Vietnam, and I saw a lot of people die. And when I had the Bible study with my sister and her fiance, I learned that if everyone in the world was Jehovah's Witness, there wouldn't be any wars, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't go in the military. So that intrigued me, and after I was intrigued by that, I was also told that there was only one religion in the world that felt like that, and that was the Jehovah's Witnesses. And also Armageddon was going to come in a year and a half from that time. And I believed that Jehovah's Witnesses had the truth, and Armageddon was going to come.
People really become attracted to Jehovah's Witnesses because they have what sounds like a pretty decent product that they sell. They come to the doors. I used to go to the door myself as a Jehovah's Witness and talk to so many people in the neighborhood. And our message was a message that's different than nominal Christianity. Our message was we were bringing them the fact that Christ already came to power in 1914, and he's reigning now, and his kingdom's about to come about where people would be able to live forever on paradise earth. That message resonated with a whole lot of people. And the reason why it did is because people can visualize, they can connect with earth. That's where they're living. So all of a sudden, as the witnesses will say, boy, there's going to be peaceful conditions, there'll be no more pain. Your kids will play with the animals. I mean, this is how they attract people. So this paradise earth concern, or their belief on that, is very effective for them. It's easier for a person to accept earth than it is heaven. So consequently, that's how the witnesses really did recruit and still continue to recruit people on the idea of paradise earth.
Well, I had knowledge of Jehovah God, and that Jesus Christ was only second in command. And he was our exemplar, but I didn't see him as God. Very good.
They do not believe that Jesus is the Son of God in the truest sense as Christians do. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jesus was Michael the Archangel before he came here. And that's a major problem because there's really no biblical evidence to support that.
In the when you study with Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll tell you that you have to have love. The mark of the true religion is that religion has love amongst each other for all human beings. So if you loved your fellow man, you would not go in the military, you would not kill your fellow man. So that to me was the deciding factor that made me a Jehovah's Witness.
As far as even showing love, I mean, the Jehovah's Witnesses, when I was in there, I thought it really was a very loving organization. But little did I realize that John 13:34 is not patented scripture for them. They use it like they're the only ones on the planet that would show love. And then I see just the opposite. As I came out, became a real Christian, I began to realize, wow, there's a whole brotherhood of people out here that show real love. I mean, it's not conditional love. Christians love you unconditionally. But in the Watchtower, it's all conditional love.
It was conditional that you were a brother in good standing, and if you started not going out in the ministry, or not answering questions, or not making the meetings, you were kind of looked down upon as a weak brother and someone that was not good association.
Jehovah's Witnesses go door to door. When I was a young person, I started out going door to door, and I didn't really have a problem with it. An outgoing person, and I kind of enjoyed it going as a young person door to door with my friends. And consequently, the reason why I thought I was doing the right thing going door to door is even in Acts, the 20th chapter, verse 20, it says that Christians would go door to door. So I really took that as, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And consequently, that's why a lot of witnesses go door to door. They think it's really something that they have to do. And they have to do it because the Watchtower Society encourages them and makes it mandatory that you go door to door. But I really thought that I was going in a Christian fashion. I really thought that I was telling people the truth, at least from what I knew about it. And the Watchtower would always say, because some people were nervous to go door to door. Obviously, it's a very controversial thing to knock on a person's door on a Saturday morning. You never know who you're going to get at the door. So, but a lot of the people that would answer the door would kind of agree. I saw that they'd kind of agree, not all, but many would agree with the work that you were doing, and they thought it was a good missionary type work. They thought there was a real Christian work. But little did I realize that we were really bringing the wrong message of Christ.
Once, I got into a debate with him, and that's what it ended up being, a debate. And I was not willing to listen to him at all because I felt I had the truth, and the knowledge that he got had to come from Satan, because you're either in Jehovah's organization or you're in Satan's, and Satan controlled all the false religion, which I thought he came from, so I was not open to anything that he had to say. Because they teach that if you go beyond the teachings of the Bible, which it's their Bible, that you are going to be in trouble and you're going to lose salvation. So it's important for me to stay within the parameters of the Watchtower and the Watchtower literature.
As a Jehovah's Witness, when I became anointed, I started having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I started seeing, I went on, I got a different translation of the Bible, and I started studying it, my wife and I, and we both started having a relationship now with Jesus. Now that's not to say we discount Jehovah, but we started seeing that Jesus seemed to be at the higher level of our thinking when it comes to Christianity.
My first big doubt was when I had a meeting with the elders and servants, meeting with the traveling overseer. At the time I was a ministerial servant, and they wanted us to vote whether or not we should disfellowship fat people, being that being obese or fat was detrimental to your health, as cigarette smoking was detrimental. And they would disfellowship people for smoking. And they just felt, they wanted to know how the brothers would feel about disfellowshipping people that were overweight. So I don't know where I got the audacity, but I challenged that. And I asked the traveling overseer, so why are we voting on it? Doesn't Jehovah's Spirit tell the anointed what to do, and the anointed tells the governing body, and then it filters down to us? And he looked at me, and he was annoyed by the question. And I was pretty upset, because my wife at the time had gained a lot of weight, And the two elders who had slender wives voted to disfellowship. And that was the first crack, even though this was in like the mid-'80s, and I had lived through Armageddon not coming in 1975. I just rolled with that, and I was just thankful that it didn't come. But when they wanted us to vote on disfellowshipping people who were fat, then I knew it was not an organization being controlled by God Almighty. It was being controlled by men.
I began doubting the Watchtower Society back in 1983. There was an article that came out in the 1983 Watchtower, and it was concerning independent thinking. And I can remember sitting in the backyard of my house and reading that article about it. And it said that you really shouldn't think for yourself. The Watchtower organization really should be doing your thinking. And my sister-in-law was sitting there, and I read her that word for word right out of the Watchtower. I said, "What do you think of this, Nancy?" And you know, she kind of looked at me funny. And then even when I brought it to my wife's attention, because you're not even supposed to, you know, bring questions up like that. If the Watchtower says that you should be thinking their way and not independently, then that's what you're supposed to do. So that got me thinking, but I was afraid to really bring it up to other people because their eyebrows would always rise. So consequently, I've gone through many years, for the next 20 years of my life, really, kind of doubting the Watchtower. I started to see they were very controlling. And as I say, controlling you from the cradle to the grave. They want to know everything about you. They claim they're teaching you the truth, but when it comes to teaching you the truth, they certainly leave Jesus out of the equation. It's how it works in the Jehovah's Witness organization is they call it disfellowshipping, and it's a very cruel punishment. And the reason why it's so cruel is because it causes a lot of emotional strain on people. If you don't follow the tenets of the Watchtower, and you mess up, and the elders become aware of it. Many people will actually go and confess their sins. And in so many cases, even the person showing repentance are disfellowshipped anyways. And what they do is they disfellowship you from speaking to any other. They shun you. You will not be able to speak with any other witnesses until you can become reinstated. And consequently, that reinstatement sometimes can come upwards of 2 years. Some people never can get back in. But at that point, they consider you spiritually dead. Your relatives, your witnesses, friends will have nothing to do with you. I left the Watchtower Society, and there was a lot of ramifications and sacrifices that had to be made. I mean, I knew it was going to create problems in my family because almost all of my relatives are Jehovah's Witnesses, and including 2 of my children at the time. So I knew when I distanced myself and made my feelings clear to the Watchtower where I stand, I knew that I would be disfellowshipped for apostasy, which I was. And then consequently, that brings real problems into your life. My 2 children, I still have, to this day, will not talk to me. I've been out of the organization now for going on 6 years. And they still will just walk by you, or at least one of them walks by you, which you will see in the store, for example. And then the other sacrifice that you have to make when you leave the organization is all your friends as well. I had so many friends that were Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, I grew up with so many of them. And of course, they instantly disconnect from me.
Well, I didn't actually leave on my own volition. I was disfellowshipped. But trying to get it back into the organization, I actually quit a very good paying job because of the hours so I could get back in. But as time went on and I became more aware that there's a lot of things you can't see. That old expression, you can't see the forest through the trees. That's very true if you're a Jehovah's Witness, because you're always getting bombarded with their information, their literature, and you can't talk to anybody on the outside. When you start to talk to people on the outside, you start to get a different value system, and you start to realize that this is a cult.
Like I say, when I became an anointed witness, I started seeing more Jesus in the Bible than Jehovah, especially in the New Testament, obviously. And consequently, I went to a Christian retreat in Pennsylvania. In fact, a beautiful place in the Blue Mountains. And I went down there as a card-carrying Jehovah's Witness. And when I walked in there, I talked to so many people that were Christians. They really knew their Bible. and they've helped me so much to learn more about the real Jesus, learn more about the real truth, and consequently it was really other Christians that really helped me. Because when you come out of the watchtower, you're kind of afraid to speak with a Christian. We're afraid of the cross, we're afraid of churches, we're afraid of anything that has that Christian attachment. But consequently, you begin to study with them and talk with them, and I am so glad that Satan kicked me out of his organization, and now I'm a real Christian.
I started coming to Christian meetings right here at the Upper Room Ministry. I saw an ad in the paper looking for former Jehovah's Witnesses or Jehovah's Witnesses, and I attended, and I attended for 2 or 3 years before I realized that what I was being taught was the truth. That you didn't have to be a perfect person. You didn't have to follow the criteria of one man or one man's organization. And I found it very upbuilding and encouraging to be with true Christians. And they didn't really seem to care if you've got some things in your former life that weren't too good. You could be forgiven for that, where you couldn't be in Jehovah's organization.
So now that you're out the Watchtower, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for the truth, the real answer. What does the Bible really teach? I really want to know. I really want to know who put us here. I really want to know, is this God? I think this God is more forgiving God than we look at him as this destroyer. Like he's holding this big machine gun and waiting for you to make a false step. I just feel like I'm looking for the loving God. It's really what I'm looking for. The God that has that unconditional love, that he knows who we are and what we've been through, and he understands, and that things take time to grow. All right, I might have rushed it in 6 months. I was still a seed, and God's making me grow. And as I'm growing, the Watchtower really cut me down before I was able to blossom, and have beautiful flowers grow off of me, or whatever beautiful, fruit. And, I was a baby. I know more now being disfellowshipped and doing research than I ever did.
Jehovah's Witnesses are here to stay. And they, like any other people, are in need of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So the question that remains, will you give them a witness, and will you be a witness of Jesus Christ to the ends of the earth and be obedient to the Master's calling? It is my prayer and hope that all Jehovah's Witnesses everywhere will receive a witness by true witnesses of Jesus Christ.
Along the visual scientific line and in the
I've knocked on doors for many years, a good part of 50 years of my life, and thousands and thousands of doors. But I can never remember a Christian opening the door up and saying, "Come on in, guys, let's have some tea or something together." This just didn't happen, and I thought it would be so good now that I've left the organization if Christians could do that. A lot of Christians are afraid to talk to Jehovah's Witnesses. A lot of Christians think that Jehovah's Witnesses even know more than they do, and that's a sad shame when that has to happen, because so many good witnesses could become good Christians if the Christians would invite them in, read some scripture, and do it in a nice way. It doesn't have to be in a harsh way. But as I look back on the trail now, it's been wonderful if Christians would have spoke with us.